Alright, so today's shop tip is on spark plugs. So as you can see, we got a nice selection here. Everything from this new HIPAA right over to this very corroded Champion. So as far as I'm concerned, there's 3 reasons to replace a spark plug, and just doing a service on it's not necessarily one of them. I would say that I get just as many new spark plugs that have issues as I do old spark plugs that have issues outside of what we're going to talk about today. So just putting in a new spark plug does not do anything for you. You're just as likely to introduce a new issue as anything. Now, some of these spark plugs, and I don't have one here today, some of them, they'll still have the paint on it that matches the motor. They could be 30, 40, 50 years old and still work just fine. So, this is just a new HIPAA spark plug. They're cheap. They usually come with the cheap carburetors that you buy and stuff. That's how I got that one. But, as you can see, nice and clean. This is what a new spark plug should look like. Now let's talk about a little bit of corrosion. So you can see on these 2 spark plugs, this is actually they're both Champions. It's a J19LM and this old J6J. Now this is in here for another reason, but corrosion's about the same on these. Nothing wrong with these spark plugs. They're just that nickel plating is getting a little oxidized. I wouldn't change these based on corrosion, but these next 3 I absolutely would. So you can see on this one, heavily corroded, but if you look at the threads, still pretty shiny. So that corrosion hasn't gotten to the threads yet. And all these spark plugs work. They came out of working engines. So here's another one, little less corrosion, but as you can see right up here, that corrosion is just starting to get into the threads. So it's good that we caught that one. And now here at the end, another J19LM. I just took this out of the mower. In fact, it's still a little warm. This was working just fine, but you see that corrosion, heavily corroded on the outside, and it's worked its way all the way down the threads. Now this did come out hard, but it didn't strip the threads or anything. The next one screwed right in. But definitely want to get that one out of there. So that's external corrosion. That's one reason that you're going to want to replace them. Now the next one is a fouled plug. So if you look inside of this one, you can see some crud down in here. So this came out of an engine that was burning a bit of oil and not running quite right. So this plug is fouled. Now it was still working, but it wouldn't have worked much longer. So that's another reason you want to change a spark plug. But almost certainly this was not the spark plug's fault. You have another issue that's causing this. So now let's look at a spark plug that's actually worn out. Hopefully we can get this. So what I want you to look at is that electrode down in there. Just this piece right here. If you look at that, you can see that it no longer has a nice sharp 90-degree edge. So it's getting worn out. So if this piece in here gets worn, or the top piece, if you don't have nice square edges in there, you're not going to get a proper spark. It's still going to work, but you might not be working to its maximum potential. Other than that, spark plugs do stop working sometimes. I mean, it does happen. If you got no spark at your spark plug, but you do at your boot, well then replace it, because see this one here, So the Champions, they're pretty easy to tell if you have a resistor plug or not. So there's a J19LM and an RJ19LM. One has a resistor, one doesn't. Makes no difference. As you can see, this is a Champion. This is also Champion, but it's got the Briggs & Stratton logo in it. So this was almost certainly the original plug for that motor. The more stuff you add to a spark plug or anything, the more chances you have of failure. So when I go buy spark plugs, I don't care if it's a J19 or an RJ19. I buy whatever. But I wouldn't switch from a J19 to an RJ19 thinking you're getting a better plug, because you're not. The only reason I would do that is if I was getting some interference, because small engines, they do create a little bit of radio frequency, and sometimes they don't interfere with stuff. But now that nobody really has free air TV, it's not really a problem. Anyway, that's it for this video. It's getting long. I hope I helped somebody out, and that's how I do my spark plugs. I don't replace them unless they need to be replaced, because like that spark plug there, it needed to be replaced, and that motor is probably 20 years old. The motor that this one came out of was closer to 50 years old. As you can see, it's in better shape. Only reason I replaced it was because the electrodes were getting worn. So if you take something to a small engine shop and they throw a filter in it and a spark plug, and it's not because you need it, it's because they want to sell them to you. So until next time.